when there's a bad transition, bad animation, bad things, that means it's bad design. It doesn't mean that design is here and developers here. So we are all together, and that's what we want to talk about today. So here's a couple of short things, just jumping in if you want to. These are quick ones, so if you hear these things, these are all real quotes I've heard. And if you hear these in your project, do something before it's too late. This design cannot be implemented. Then the developers need to learn to write better code. This has been signed off already. That means that the customer has signed up something that we would still want to mean. That means that the customer interaction is a little bit off. Is this spec final? Because I can't be bothered to change it. Fire your designers, our developers. This is a real quote I heard in a company I joined, and I quit the same day. This is from a designer who I work with, who I greatly appreciate, but he told me that what I do is very easy. He knows what I do because he did HTML. Anyways, so this was the foundation, why we want to talk today about how we work together. We've been working together for 5 years, maybe?
Yeah.
And we found a way to make things work without much friction. So we're going to be talking to both devs and designers. I recommend that you don't tune out for the other part, because you will learn from that one as well. But before we go in, how many of us are developers? Okay. How many of us are designers? You guys should talk to each other. You are the only ones. If you feel scared, there's a support group back there. Anyways, so yeah, obviously we knew this was a dev conference, so it's quite dev-focused. But the designer part Pierre is going to be talking about. You guys understand what the designers go through before we see what they produce.
Yep. So yeah, Divided We Fail, it's kind of a title to show that both of us actually, we know it. We start from different approaches. We all know that sometimes we make even jokes about that. But this is not a bad thing. I mean, we are trying to develop complex product or to solve complex problems. So it's really important, I think, that this is actually an upside. So we can tackle the problem from different perspectives in order to basically get the whole picture. There are still cases in which, for example, only one-side approach is taken, and we see that this is not actually it doesn't lead to the best product ever. So it brings with it basically some limitations. So if you tackle the problems on, for example, only the functional approach.
Okay, let's see what we produce as developers if we don't involve designers. If this is your application, I'm sorry. I know some people build app for themselves, put it to a store, and it's free. Both of these applications are free. Some try to get ads. So it's not a bad thing. But honestly, this is what we get. All the basic stuff is wrong. So this is another example that happens when you just have engineers. The same applies the other way around, right?
Exactly. So I called it more like aesthetic, not design, because for me design it's really like a deeper thinking. But like in this case, for example, if we take the only aesthetic approach, we might lead into nice UIs that we will post on Dribbles, but then maybe there is not a deeper thought on the functionality of how these will be implemented, actually.
Quick question to the devs in the audience who see this, especially this part of this thing. What is the first thing you point out this problem with this one? How does it render here or here? So this is one of the typical things that looks amazing, right? But the person who designed this, draw this in Photoshop, didn't think how it will actually work. So designers can't function in vacuum. We can't work in function in vacuum. This is an amazing example of how beautiful design is patched when things, This is actually, so this happens. This literally happens if you do waterfall with designers. They give you amazing, as concept works nice in laboratory, and then this is the patch by these developers on top of it.
So yeah, so how do we kind of get out of that? So I like this definition of design, that it's kind of problem solving within a set of constraints. So we can say, this applies also to development. So we can say that if the two fields come together and they do it properly, actually the solution scope, so it's kind of will increase. So we see that the product will benefit. But if the two sides can start to pull in opposite direction, then we have a problem, actually. Yeah, that's basically the main idea. You should try to merge the two aspects and not to pull the other way around.
Okay, so now we explain a little bit what we're doing, and this couple of practical tips how we work together, how we get better. So this section we talk a little bit about what you should know as in your domain. So start from the user first.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of the flag or the compass that should lead us in every phase of the project. We have been find ourselves several times to have, subjective assumption and so on, and then we say like, okay, wait, wait a minute, which kind of problem are we going to solve? Are we trying to solve, or which is actually our user needs? So it's important that all the roles, actually, designers, developers, product manager, they all align to the core user needs. And this will be very helpful, like in later stage, to take decision and to avoid subjective decisions. As soon as the direction it's taken somehow, it's really important to validate those assumptions as you go on. And so you can see that, okay, we thought this might work. Let's see if actually it works through user testing. Last point, of course, design pattern exists. So there are solutions that have been tried several times already. And so I would say let's start from them. Let's use them if it's possible and if it suits our user needs or our case.
Close to my heart if you know what I've been writing for the last couple of years. Yeah. So a couple of very practical things for developers in the audience. A couple of things about design field, what you need to know about. You don't need to dive very deeply, but you have to know about what they mean. Let's start for mental models. Mental model is the model the user forms in the head when they try to use your application. If that conflicts with the model you built, the functional model, the user have a problem. So this is a very good way of thinking. There's a good book about this. We don't get any sponsor money, but we just like the book. There's a couple of other books as well. I will tweet them afterwards so you can, good ideas how to read. Other ones is personas, user-centered design, or use goal-driven design. Again, there's a great book for this one, but think about the persona. Some people, when they see persona definitions, they think that's waste of time, it's fun, people are picking pictures from the internet, but these actually make it very useful. We can have an example later on how we used it. QuickTime is short-term memory, how human short-term memory works. We can remember about 7 things, and we forget them very quickly. So if you have a menu structure that's more than 7, you probably cause a problem to the user. So understand how our brains work, at least a little bit. Do usability testing, user testing. This is the eye-opening things, what happens to you when you are certain that your application is amazing. Like you fall in love with your own work, then you put it in front even like a friendly audience, your friend or family, and they have no clue how your application works. That's a problem. Here's an example what happened actually in Berlin last year. So this is a hotel bathroom. What happened? I opened the door and I said, there's no light. I switched this one on, some other light. I switched it on, some other light. I switched this one on, some other light. I took these 2. Nothing happened. So I left. Okay, gonna be in dark. The next morning, so think about the use context, the real context where people are using this. This spec is great, but it doesn't work in practice. So it's your fault when the users make mistakes. Don't blame the user. If the user has to, or if the user makes mistakes, you made a crappy UI. Know your stuff. This is something that you have to know your domain. You have to be a good programmer. You have to understand all of the stuff that goes to your work to be a good partner with your designer. Patterns, understand, and especially for designers, it's important that designers are ready to answer question why. When we as a developer don't understand something, what they put on the design, they have to be ready to answer the why question. We've had design agencies we work together when we go and ask, okay, we don't think this works because these reasons, why did you design it this way? And they answer, because we designed it this way. And that's the end of discussion, and the product will be crap. Here's just a few things. For devs, if you don't know, you have to know every revision of support library. This is your main tool, but this is where all the design stuff goes now. Google is very design-driven. All of the design stuff goes here. Always read the latest releases, always know exactly what is in there. Know how to use GitHub. If you look at the UI, there's 500,000 Android UI projects, 99% crap, but there's something in there as well. So know where to look for. Know the components Google provides us for free. Know where to look for them. For designers, design guidelines, Android design guidelines, will allow them to design in a way that we can easily implement it. This is where the stuff flows into the support library and the design support library. Personally, this is from my recommendation to any designers, both designers in the audience. Understand how the layout thing works. Don't learn it, but understand how we as developers tackle the problem of scalable UI. It's different in Photoshop. It's just one screen size, especially if you still use Photoshop. We have to figure out how to scale it. Talk to the developers and understand what our problem space is. You don't have to learn how to use constraint layout, but understand that we're using. I suggest you would play around with the Android Studio and drag around things a little bit, just a little bit, but not too much. I'm not asking you to learn how to use Android Studio. But if you play around a little bit, you learn our problem space a little bit, and you can understand what we deal with. So, all of the knowledge of your domain, both design and developers, leads into this foursquare. What happens is that we as developers, we feed into this side, and the developers feed into this side. Now there's customer, we're going to talk about it later. But if you take anything else out from this talk than this slide, that's all right. So, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think this kind of fits of what you mentioned already. Like, if the designer is able to understand the why, so for example, we have a solution that, it's really important for UX, for the user experience, but somehow it leads to a more complex implementation, then we might, invest more time into it. Otherwise, if it falls in the nice to have, yeah, it's not let's say it's not worth it to spend that much time, and we can somehow reprioritize it. So this helps a lot also when you are in the process itself to say, okay, let's apply the right priorities to what we are doing, and let's check the cost basically of the implementations.
So in practice, this is what we always implement. This we never implement unless we have a lot of money. These we implement if we have time. So the problem with this one is that you have to combine the knowledge of both discipline and good knowledge, not just a little bit, to put features in the right place in this one. So this is where core of us working together comes together. Right? All right, let's move on.
Workflow?
Yeah, let's do some workflow. So this is how we work, right? We're not going to talk about Agile. I think that's enough. You probably know what Agile means. Well, we're going to talk about how we work and do.
Yeah. So basically, step in early. It's a very important point because I still believe that developers and can bring a lot in the very early stage. So for two reasons, this would for sure leads to a stronger ownership of the project itself. And second, it can helps a lot in finding, a corner case, feasibility problem on a very early stage. And if we detect those at the very beginning, of course, the cost of the implementation will drop after. Establish a close interaction. Of course, it's something very important because if we don't exchange fast, if we don't iterate fast, we will never manage to get to the end result. And if we are not sure that that message pass through, let's just repeat it and speak out loud, because I think most of the time we underestimate the fact that somehow we speak a bit different languages, so it's not obvious that we think the same way.
Also, if you're a developer and you don't understand part of the design, ask, don't pretend you do, because you might cause a lot of problem in the project. Yeah, communication, basically. But now we go to the stakeholder management. So we, in our company, and I personally, I believe that everybody should always see all prototype, all versions of the code, all nightly builds accessible to everybody. But it leads a little bit in a problem, especially if you work with your customers, a bit immature company, they haven't really figured out what this stage are, or they worked with huge consulting companies that just give them the end product, so they don't understand what a wireframe is, for example. Be very careful. One thing that is helpful, try to pipe the feedback through one person, so there's one voice. We have customers where the emails come everywhere, you don't know who's who, and that just causes confusion. Explain to people that this is not the final design we are proposing to them. Sometimes that's not clear. It's clear for us. Nobody wants this application on their phone. But for the customer, they might have a heart attack. They go, our colors are not gray. I know. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just want to say that it's very, very important, and it's a good reach if we manage to establish with the customer a path in which we work on prototypes instead of saying, okay, that's the final design, and he can again give early feedback, because most of the customer, they're really focused on the business goals, and that's where we have to make sure that the other two parts come together, so the user needs and the technical constraint or feasibility.
Yeah, so this is the extension to the old. And so if we manage to push this part together in our team and expand the solution scope, we work together, it's easier to match the customer's business goals as well. So this is just adds a complication to the whole workflow.
Yep.
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities. I think it helps a lot to define to define where we want to focus on. Of course, there are always new ideas coming, and this shouldn't derail somehow the core or the MVP. It's always better, to launch with MVP in time than full launch the full feature product, but I don't know, with several months later of delay. Customization cost, I think this refers a bit to the...
That's most like to patterns and the understanding of priorities. Again, if there's a certain thing, if we can build a toolbar in 2 minutes versus we build super custom header component in 5 days, now we have to think about the priorities of these things that the custom components adds to us. So think about always the cost and time into the factor.
Actually, we have an example later for that. But again, we might decide to build a custom header, but we cannot do it until we are pretty sure that the structure and the behavior of that specific part works. It's done. So it might be there. It's nice things, but let's keep it in the nice to have until we don't have the core first. Yeah, interact. Basically, that's some of what we said so far. It's really important to keep a close feedback loop and try to avoid to be blocker for anyone. So you respond as quickly as possible. Be open to feedback and to change, because we might think nothing is set in stone.
Yeah.
So let's really keep it
Absolutely.
agile. Can I say that?
Also, this is quite a very important part. So I already mentioned that we push it to everybody. What we found, even with the inexperienced customer, if they have an application they can hold in their hands and install from the Play Store, just drop it to the Play Store Alpha with the random package name. You never have to release it. The feedback will be way better. The discussions will always be closer. If you show a PowerPoint keynote presentation about your system, they have no idea how the feedback is going to be. They're going to be focusing on wrong things and so on. The live data, this is a good example. We had a customer here in Germany where we built a prototype. We thought our data looks quite cool, looks quite all right. We hooked it in Firebase and filled in Firebase with fake data, and it was all dynamic and all fun. Then we hooked it into their system, and all the data was completely different, and it didn't work at all. So try to design or even prototype with live data if possible. Of course, it's quite heavy cost sometimes.
There are also some interesting plugins that you can drop the JSON directly and test immediately. So yeah, the next one, I think we can go a bit faster on that. It's just the workflow that we often use. We start from the discover or the investigation first, and while still the approach is still broad, the development can at this point already jump in with doing some investigation before we come to the next step, which is the definition. And here, for example, the technical part can bring already a lot of knowledge in this state. The other two parts, of course, development and deliver, are where we actually built the actual product. And as we see that we get into details, the interaction loop has to be closer and closer. It's really important as soon as we start to build that we step back, we test, we check, and then we keep iterate and refine basically. And here where it comes the user validation.
Okay.
So yeah, tools can help, yes. So I mean, there are a million tools out there. I think you mentioned Photoshop already 4 times. I'm not using it since 3 or 4 years at least, maybe 5. I don't know. But these are kind of 2 tools where we rely on pretty heavily, at least me. Sketch for building the interface, and Zeppelin to communicate it to the devs. So if we go through, I put some examples. So for example, this is Sketch. Here again, there are a lot of plugins and resources. This is the material design plugin. And let's say we want to insert very simple components like a dialogue. I can immediately drop it in, change the text, and generate it. And most of the work has been done already, so I don't have to rebuild UI components every time. Once I have the component in place, if we go to the next one, exactly, we might want to change it or customize it a bit, like, let's say, I don't know, insert an icon or change the header. In this case, it's really good, and for example, to the symbols management. So Sketch gives this possibility of once you have your components and you have it the way you want it, you can immediately basically convert into a symbols. This will basically put this component in your symbols page, and from that moment on, you have it ready every time you have to reuse it. So in this case, for example, we call it dialog default. And this is really important for a couple of reasons. The first one is consistency. So, for example, if I access then my symbols page that I will see on there on the top right, you can click, I think you jump into that. Exactly. My components, it's now part of my design system, and as soon as I start to create new components, I can have a look at how my design system is evolving. And in best case, this will basically be consistent with also how the code will be. If we take a deeper look at my component, it has inside already all the information I need to communicate. So the assets that they will be generated while exporting, and for example, the text styles that I applied. If I select then the whole symbol, I can see that basically as I need to reuse it, I can just, change the text, the title as well, and swap the icon, and I have again a component that is consistent with all the others in the app itself, for example. If we go further, yeah, that's another very cool feature of Sketch. Is basically the ability, it's completely vector-based, of course, and the ability to scale, so you can set constraints and to scale it easily, the UI, and see how it works on several resolutions. So once our screen is ready, very basic one, I just press a shortcut, and from this moment on, you can switch to Zeppelin. Basically, Zeppelin, you have exactly the same UI with all the information for that the devs needs at this point. So, for example, you would have the asset immediately downloadable in all the resolution or in SVG, in all the densities, and it keeps, very important, the same file nomenclature of the assets. So everything I have in the in Sketch, it will be the same in code, so we make sure that we don't swap assets. And as well, the text style, so my dialogue title, and all the information below with the XML that you can.
Yeah, so you can drop this directly to your layout, and it will look exactly correct. All the margins and all the layout beyond this one component you have to write yourself on top of that one. But this is a super fast way to do it. It even adds the tools tag here for the text, so it will look correctly in the preview.
Yeah. Another thing, of course, you can easily post comments, and you will be notified immediately, so you can update the UI.
This is one of the most powerful communication tools when we do rapid iterations. If I need one of the assets that is not exportable, I need to change something a little bit, or Pierre sees some problem. Here you can add comment in right context, and its flow is correctly in there. Yep. So this is much more powerful than taking a screenshot, writing right on the screenshot, and then sending a screenshot, because this is already all in one place. Yeah.
And yeah, as soon as you update it, you can even post a commit message. And another important part is the style guide. So this is basically live style guide. As soon as I change stuff in Sketch, it will be immediately updated here. So we'll always have the colors and the text styles in sync.
Also, this is the Android resources. You can just drop this in your code and you have the same.
And very last part, if you are using other tools like Slack, for example, every time there is an update, you will receive a notification in your activity channel.
This is very good for communicating to customer. Customer can just hook into this channel on Slack and see what's going on.
Yep. So
okay, we're a bit short of time. Yep. We have 10 minutes left. We wanted to talk about the showcase. So we built an application on Snap. We have this Google-inspired 20% application, so we built apps just for ourselves. They're nice because you don't have to deal with customer because yourself. So we can just concentrate on building applications very fast and do buy. So we thought how we applied all of these things there. So we actually, the way we start these applications every time, we could take turn who wants to build their application. We built personas and we built user goals. So personas usually the first. Persona is always one of us, maybe me. But we also go through personas that we don't focus on. So it's important to bring priorities on. So we build it for overbright software engineers. These guys who are super fit, this application wasn't for them. We go through goals the same way. We write goals, we prioritize them 3 different layers or 4 different layers. 3 is the MVP, has to have its 2, 1.1, 1 is 2.0, and 0 we don't actually implement at all. And what is the benefit of this one is that we, the person who wants to build this application, can then pitch this idea based on the personas and the goals to the rest of the team. And we can communicate the idea to Pierre, who's going to be doing design, even if he's not been part of the initial process, without accidentally designing the UI. So you can describe your whole idea without doing any design, any sketching, any features, anything. And this gives the free hand to the designer to go on. And from this we go and start figuring out how it's going to be. So we're going to talk about, we take about a weekend usually to build the first version of the application, not ready for the store, but ready for distribution to our friends.
Yeah. So this was the very starting point of the iteration. So we came together and we started to basically draft ideas and somehow the information architecture of the product itself. Of course, this is a step counter, which has a social feature. So it was clear from the very beginning that we would have invested a bit in this approach of having, your steps in the primary, then secondary your friends, and tertiary your history. So I started to do some design iteration. We took as a reference these circle elements, and I started to try different variation. At this point, while I was doing this, you were basically doing that.
This is literally the first version of the application.
Yeah. So we came to this point, and then we went again through the different variation, and we decided to drop basically the multi-line. We liked it a lot, but there were some downside, like scalability and so on. So we concentrated actually on that, and we decided to implement that as the first iterations. So this was already the first iterations, and we see that we had these 2 variations, the total steps, and you could actually switch to the goal. So you would see the percentage of the goal reached and as well for your friends.
This was a version that was done day 2. So this was still running on Firebase, but it was the data I typed in there, but the idea was proof of concept day 2.
Yeah, so that was the second iteration already on the UI. We added the history, and then basically this was reached after 2 days.
So this was like day 3 or so. This was a project that was done after work. So I had 1 weekend, and then it was the day of the next day. And this time the data was already hooked in, everything worked as well. These are actually real users there, and we started giving this to our friends. Yeah. And it became clear that people didn't understand this share between these 2 things. And we went back to our goals. This feature wasn't really defined in the goals at all. And we thought, okay, well, it's not an MVP. Why do we spend time figuring out how to make this work? Let's just drop it. So it was gone immediately after day 3.
Yeah, but this was the first user test we did, and we already could somehow take some decision from that. So we actually went back to the core. At this point, I was back in Berlin, so we kept basically working remote, but we used the Google Docs where I basically was posting UI changes. It was open to comments, and basically here we kept thinking of the next iterations. Which was actually already when we applied the UI standard colors and so on. And then we realized that when we kind of we nailed down the primary and the secondary information, we were not sure about this. So after other user tests, we decided to get rid of this element, and we switched actually to a different one, which is more understandable graph. Here, this was kind of technically challenging at the beginning. This was the first version, but we made it at the end. So, here's what we mentioned before. So at the very end of the product, when all the core was covered and the most important cases were covered, then we decided, okay, let's add some final touches to it, where we inserted basically some tooltips to welcome the user or to congrats the user when he reached his goals. And we also decided to have this animation layer, which I don't know how much you spent on that, but still, it's nice to have.
2 days. Okay, but it was on the store already. So this is pretty much it. We want to end with a couple of final thoughts. Learn from each other. We work together. There's a lot of things that it's worth understanding how designers work, how they deliver the stuff to us. Designers have a lot to learn from us. If we work together, we're going to create some kick-ass things. Just very good takeaways. This is the second to last slide. I know we're running short. Focus to the user. If you don't focus the user, you create something that nobody wants to use. Early stage, start from beginning. The teams have to be working together from the day one. There's no such thing as developers going there first or designers going there first. Workflow. We found a good workflow. The first time we tried it, didn't work quite well. We try new ones and find new ones, iterate. Tools. Find a good one. Zeppelin's awesome. I wish they would sponsor me, but they don't. But yeah, I love it. Respect and empathy. This is the last point. Respect the other part. They're doing the best they can. They're doing their work. Respect what they're doing. If you don't have empathy and respect to the other side of the team, you will create crap software.
And I would say that's the most important point. Probably.
That's the most important point. Yeah. Thank you.
Couple of
Unfortunately, I don't think we have time for questions, but I'm going to go to the GDG booth. If somebody wants to talk to us, I'm going to be here like 5 more minutes, then I have to go to Krakow. But then, see you later.
And thank you.
Everybody.